Hey, welcome back to the channel. Okay, before you skip this video, please just give me the first 10 seconds. There, did you hear that? Those two voices, that is one person. One human being. Park Jimin. And today, we are going to talk about something that has left vocal experts, opera singers, and professional musicians genuinely shaking their heads in disbelief. We are going to break down exactly why Jimin of BTS is not just a talented singer, but someone who literally sounds like two completely different singers living inside one body. Grab your snacks. This is going to be a long one. This is going to be insane. And every single thing I'm about to say is backed by facts. You probably already know that BTS just made their massive comeback with their fifth studio album, Hybe Rm, released on March 20th, 2026. This was the most anticipated comeback in K-pop history, after nearly 4 years of hiatus due to mandatory military service. And when BTS stepped back onto that stage at Gwangwon Square in Seoul on March 21st, 2026, watched live by more than 18 million global viewers on Netflix, something happened that reminded the world all over again. Jimin, he was back. And his voice? Oh my god. NPR called Hybe Rm a triumphant homecoming. The New York Times gave it a critic's pick label, calling it borderline experimental. And within the album, the track, Hooligan, was specifically highlighted for the vocals of V and Jimin, described as nothing short of soaring. But this isn't just about a new album. This is about a vocal journey that has been building for over a decade. One that keeps making experts ask the same question. How does one person carry two completely opposite vocal identities at the same time? We're going to break this down piece by piece. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Alright, let's get into the heart of it. A Japanese opera singer was once interviewed by the Japanese fashion magazine Frau, and she said something extraordinary about Jimin. She called his voice attractive and very rare. She said his falsetto and head voice carry a unique tone that could only be produced by Jimin. There is nothing else like it in the world. But the most striking part of her analysis was this. She described Jimin's voice as mysterious, with a tone that alternates between the voice of a grown man and the voice of a young boy whenever the notes change. And his ability to sound like a female voice, she said, was rare and incredibly captivating. Think about that. One singer, one throat. But vocal experts are hearing two entirely different entities. Let's talk about the first side. Call it the ethereal side, the voice that floats down from somewhere above the clouds. You know the song Serendipity? That is Jimin version 1. When he sings that song, it genuinely feels like listening to something that doesn't belong to this world. Light, floating, almost like morning mist on water. Vocal analysts describe this as head voice dominant in the upper register. A clean, focused sound with an ethereal quality that makes the hair on your arms stand up. Technically speaking, Jimin almost entirely sings in his head voice in his upper range. And his head voice? It sits in a range that most male singers can only reach through falsetto, meaning what feels normal for Jimin is already the ceiling for most other singers. One trained vocalist who analyzed Jimin's technique wrote, Jimin almost entirely sings in his head voice. His head voice sits in the range of other male singers' falsetto. This makes Jimin sound higher even when he's singing the exact same note as someone else. This is not a limitation. This is an exclusive vocal identity that belongs only to him. Listen to Filter, Lie, Promise, Jimin's solo tracks that showcase this ethereal side. There is a gentleness in those songs that cannot be faked. There is an intimacy that makes it feel like Jimin is whispering directly into your ear, like the music is something personal and private just between you and him. Now let's talk about the other side. The dark side. The voice that rises up from somewhere deep underground. Listen to Set Me Free PT2 from his album Face in 2023, or certain sections of Like Crazy, or the track Who from his album Muse in 2024, which was selected as the biggest impact song of the year by the music outlet Consequence. Here, Jimin is no longer light and floating. Here, Jimin is heavy, intense, loaded with emotional pressure. His voice drops into a deeper register. The color changes completely. There is darkness. There is urgency. There is something that makes your chest feel tight in the best possible way. Analysts describe this as the deliberate use of vocal fry and vibrato as stylistic tools, not technical accidents, but intentional artistic choices. Jimin uses fry, portamento, the smooth sliding between notes, and micro-vibrations to create a sense of emotional vulnerability that feels devastatingly real. These two sides are not just different in pitch. They are different in character, in color, in texture, in soul. Okay, now we're going to get slightly technical. But don't worry, I promise this won't feel like a biology class. Most singers have one core vocal color. Some are warm and velvety like Jungkook, Jimin's own bandmate. Some are dark and husky like V. Some are bright and powerful like Ali. But Jimin has two core vocal colors that he can switch between, like a painter who can produce photorealistic portraits and abstract expressionist canvases with the same hand. Technically, this involves the ability to fluidly move between chest voice, mixed voice, head voice, and falsetto, without any audible break or crack in the transition. Vocal experts call these transition zones the passaggio, and mastering them seamlessly is something that even many professionally trained singers spend entire careers struggling to achieve. And Jimin, who ironically never received any professional vocal training before his debut, does this naturally. According to multiple analyses, it was Jimin's sheer diligence and dedication that built this technique from scratch. He learned through observation, through relentless repetition, through an obsessive commitment to getting it right. And the result is something one opera singer described as something that can only be produced by Jimin. One thing that comes up over and over again when experts describe Jimin's voice is the word mysterious. That's not a word that gets used often about any singer. What mysterious means technically is that Jimin's voice simply cannot be easily categorized. He is not a classical tenor. Some analysts classify him as a countertenor, a male voice that operates in a register typically associated with the female contralto. His reported vocal range spans from A2 all the way up to BB5, over 3 full octaves. But it's not just about range. What makes Jimin's voice mysterious is how his tone shifts with each register. In the lower register, he sounds like a warm, experienced grown man. In the upper register, he transforms into something younger, more vulnerable, almost like a boy still growing into himself. Two identities coexisting within a single breath. This is why so many people say listening to Jimin feels like listening to two completely different singers. And none of this is just theory or analysis from biased fans. The numbers speak for themselves. Like Crazy from Jimin's debut solo album, Face, released in 2023, became the first ever song by a K-pop solo artist to reach #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Not the K-pop chart, not a regional chart, the Billboard Hot 100, the most prestigious song chart on the planet. Then, who from his album Muse in 2024 recorded the longest stay on the Billboard Hot 100 for any K-pop solo act, holding on for 33 weeks. At the 2025 BMI Pop Awards, Jimin received recognition for 2 songs, like Crazy and Who, as part of the 50 most performed pop songs of 2024. The album Face debuted at #2 on the Billboard 200. Muse received extraordinary critical acclaim. And now, on BTS's latest album Hybe Rm in 2026, Jimin is back in full force with both vocal dimensions on display, contributing to tracks like Hooligan, praised for its soaring vocals, while also showing up in the darker, more intimate moments scattered throughout the record. This is not a coincidence. This is not simply he has a nice voice. This is proof that Jimin's vocal duality is an asset that consistently produces music capable of crossing geographic, linguistic, and genre boundaries. Now let's talk about something people often forget. Jimin is not just a vocalist. He is BTS's main dancer, and that is extremely relevant to this conversation. Most performers choose between two things: sing exceptionally well or dance exceptionally well. Doing both at the same time, with choreography as physically demanding as BTS's, is an almost superhuman challenge. And Jimin does it while maintaining both of those vocal identities we just talked about. One analyst noted that Jimin relies on what they called economy of breath, a tightly controlled conservation of air to sustain legato phrasing and extended high notes. This is a technique that becomes critical when your body is simultaneously executing choreography that drains your physical energy, and your voice still needs to remain stable, controlled, and emotionally present. Imagine sprinting 100 meters while singing opera. That is essentially what Jimin does at every live performance. And when BTS performed at Pier 17 in New York on March 23, 2026, their first US performance in 4 years, at an outdoor rooftop venue in 40-degree weather, Jimin still came out and gave everything. Afterward, he posted to Weverse saying he had been worried because he felt too cold during the concert, and he apologized to the fans who endured the same cold to be there. He closed simply with, "Thank you, Army." That is not just professionalism. That is the devotion of a perfectionist. And Jimin is, without question, a perfectionist. He is consistently the last member to leave the practice room. He is the one who will repeat a move or a vocal line hundreds of times until it is exactly right. It is this relentless work ethic that takes raw natural talent and transforms it into something transcendent. Let me drop some names here. Lim Hyung-ju, operatic pop tenor and member of the Korean Grammy Selection Committee, has praised Jimin's vocals. Sumi Jo, a world-class operatic soprano and Grammy Award winner, has also spoken about the beauty of Jimin's voice. Sean Stockman of Boyz II Men, one of the greatest vocal groups in the history of American music, has spoken about Jimin's voice with clear admiration. And returning to that Japanese opera singer we mentioned earlier, she made a point that is worth emphasizing. She specifically noted that Jimin had never received professional vocal training before his debut. And she said it was precisely his diligence and dedication that caused his voice to develop into something so smooth, with transitions between his falsetto and natural voice becoming completely seamless. Seamless. Without a crack. Without effort that shows. This is something that even singers who have trained for decades struggle to achieve. And Jimin built it from scratch, through sheer will. That opera singer's final conclusion was simple. Jimin's voice is a voice that cannot be replicated. That is not a fan's opinion. That is a professional verdict from the world of opera, one of the most technically rigorous musical traditions that exists. One more thing we need to address, and it might be the most important part of this entire video: evolution. Jimin debuted with BTS in 2013. Even back then, his voice was unique. But compared to Jimin today, the difference is staggering. In the early years, Jimin, like many idols, was sometimes pushed into vocal styles that didn't always align with the natural strengths of his voice. Heavy choreography, the pressure to perform flawlessly night after night, and the rawness of being new to everything created moments where his voice hadn't yet fully opened up. But over time, something shifted. Jimin began going back to the very basics of singing and rebuilding his foundation. He mentioned in a Vogue interview that many of his solo songs are technically very demanding, and this pushed him to return to fundamentals, to simplify, to strengthen the core, to rebuild from the ground up. The result has been a vocal journey that has become progressively more mature, more daring, and more self-aware with every release. Face in 2023 was a statement. Set Me Free PT2 was a declaration of vocal freedom. Muse in 2024 was a deeper exploration into the darker, more complex layers of what his voice can do. And on Erarang in 2026, Jimin shows up as an artist who fully knows who he is, both sides intact, both sides owned completely, both sides serving one singular vision. As one recent profile put it, Jimin is BTS's vocalist and dancer, known for his expressive performances and his unique voice. His work ethic is legendary. He is the perfectionist who practices until everything is exactly right. So let's wrap this up. Jimin is not just a good singer. Jimin is a rare vocal phenomenon, an artist who carries two fundamentally different sound identities, who can move between them with complete precision, and who built all of it not through formal training, but through obsession, dedication, and a deep, relentless love for music. His ethereal side takes you up to the clouds. His dark, intense side pulls you straight underground. And in a single song, a single performance, a single breath, he can take you to both places at the same time. World-class opera singers say his voice cannot be replicated. Billboard has documented his historic achievements. And 18 million viewers around the world just watched him return to the stage, stronger, more mature, and more fully himself than ever before. So if you still aren't convinced that Jimin is literally two singers in one body, go back and listen again. Close your eyes, and let both versions of him speak for themselves. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Which K-pop vocalist do you think has the most unique vocal quality of all time? I genuinely want to know. See you in the next one. Bye.